All right, welcome back. I just had my tasty soup and now I'm ready to rumble and finish the buttons. So let's get started by taking care of button number 1. So basically we don't have anything that happens once we click on the button, which is the button for our drop down menu. And what we want to happen is actually we want to make sure that this iExpanded, so the input expanded for the input button, and maybe we can even add that. We can say here input button so that we can see which button is what button. So we have this one, which is the input button, and we can even put it in here like this is the input box. Okay, and then if we close it down, we have the spacer, and then we have the output box. Okay, so this will make it a little more readable for us, and this will be the output button. And we will understand better what we are actually editing. So this here is our input button. So what we want to do is we want to actually do something very simple, and that's really the beauty about Jetpack Compose. We want to set iExpanded to true once we click on the button. Okay, so this will then collapse the drop-down menu, because expanded, and that will be the next step that we need to set up, should be set to iExpanded. So that's pretty much it. That's so cool, right? Because we're basically just having this variable that stores dynamically what happens with the user interface. So this will then expand our drop-down menu. And then on dismiss request, currently we still don't have anything. Okay, we have that for iExpanded. Let's actually test this before we implement it for our output as well. Okay, let me run it. There we are. And we can see we open it up. So that we don't close it yet. We can't close it yet because even if we select something, you can see we can select stuff, but nothing happens. So that's something we will need to select here once we do actually click on any of those given drop-down menu items. So you saw how we can actually open or expand the item. So our drop-down menu. So this was for the iExpanded, for the button. And now for the other button, the output button, we need to do the same thing. So here was oExpanded. So we created this variable that we called oExpanded, which stands for output expanded. And then we need to make sure that this expanded parameter for our drop-down menu inside of our output box is set to oExpanded. So it basically just waits for the value of oExpanded to be changed, and once that happens, it opens up this drop-down menu. All right, so now we need to find a way to make sure that this drop-down menu is set to false again. So when would be a good time to actually collapse the drop-down menu again? What do you think? Well, it's actually inside of this onDismiss request, which we have in both cases, right? Because this request is triggered or called when the user requests to dismiss the menu, such as by tapping outside the menu bounds. So that means if we are tapping anywhere else on the screen, then this will collapse again. So it will shut down or close again. So we can very easily just say iExpanded should be set to false again. So let's test that with number 1, with our left, with the input. Let's test it with that. And then test it again with the right one. So we can see we have centimeters, meters, and so forth. So we can open it. Let's click anywhere else. You see anywhere else was clicked. So this onDismiss request was triggered, which is an event that will be triggered once we click anything outside of our items. So the same will go once we click on any of the given drop-down menu items. We also want to make sure that it closes. We want to do multiple things once that happens, right? We want to make sure that here we have it, the input unit is going to change to centimeters, and here to meters, to feet, to millimeters. Okay, but before we do that, let's quickly also make sure that on dismiss request for our output drop-down menu is also going to get the iExpanded equals false. So there you are. That's really cool because we don't need to manually trigger like any visual effects or anything. We just need to manage the state. We need to manage the variable value. And by doing so, we automatically manage the user interface without having to do it ourselves. So I said earlier that I'm a bigger fan of XML, but man, this kind of stuff is so much more trouble when working with XML. And that's where these, well, Jetpack Compose is actually quite cool. So I have to say, all right. So let's go ahead and scroll back up to our first drop-down menu item inside of our drop-down menu inside of the input box. Okay, so we have the input box and there we have the box, the button and the drop-down menu. Now, once we click on this drop-down menu item, which says currently centimeters, there are a few things that we want to do. Okay, so what are the things that we want to do? We want to make sure that our text, so let's look at the user interface to understand. So I open this thing and I click on centimeters. So I want to make sure that now my value that I'm going to, my input value that I'm going to work with is going to be set to centimeters. At the same time, I want to make sure that my drop-down menu is going to be collapsed. So this menu here will be hidden. So our iExpanded will be set to false. So let's go ahead and do all of those things. So iExpanded equals false. That's number one. Then what else do we want? We want to make sure that our input unit is set to centimeters. So let's just copy this exact text that we have here. And then we want another thing that will be our conversion value or conversion factor. We need to set that value to 0.01 because a centimeter is like 1/100th of a meter. And that's at least what I'm saying here. So 1% of a meter, and I'm setting the value of our conversion factor. Now our conversion factor was this val here, which is a mutable state of a Boolean. So it stores a Boolean, it remembers a Boolean, and this will generally just be the multiplier that we're going to apply to whatever the user has entered in order to then give us the output with the data type or with the value that fits for the second option. So for now, we are really just doing centimeters to meters by, well, these are the two values that we have selected, but we do have more options. You see, inside of the drop-down menu, we also have feet and millimeters. Okay, so let's actually just run this and see if our iExpanded will be set to false once we click any of those given items. So let me click on, well, not any, but centimeter. If I click on centimeter, you see it is collapsed. Once I click on meters, nothing happens because it's not implemented yet. So we need to implement the same thing for all of our other drop-down menu items. Now, before we do so, I want to implement, or I want to make a function that will automatically take care of converting units once we click on any of those given items. Okay, I believe more like the drop-down menu items on the output box, because once we do that, then we want to update it. But we could also do both ways, right? If you update the right-hand side or if you update the left-hand side. So either way, we're going to make an update that we want to be very quick about. So yeah, that would be it for this video. See you in the next one.